Welcome to the lineup. This week's review of interesting and important stories in law enforcement. This podcast is meant to inform and entertain. It's brought to you by the team at Officer Magazine and Officer.com. It's a production of Endeavor Business Media, a division of Endeavor B2B. Now, let's get into the show. Good afternoon, or good day, or good morning, wherever it happens to be for you out there in Officer.com land listening to us. I'm retired Lieutenant Frank Borelli. I'm the Editorial Director for Officer Media Group. I am here today with retired Chief of Police, Mr. Bill Harvey, who is on our editorial advisory board and one of our regular contributors, and Constable Guy Beveridge. And part of this conversation is going to be an explanation for all of us who don't live in Texas, what being a constable actually equates to in everybody else's law enforcement world. So good afternoon to you both, gentlemen, and thank you for being here with me.
Looking forward to it.
Yeah, my pleasure. This is awesome.
So the bad news for all of our listeners is that we are all three military police veterans. We're all three served in the Army at different times. I think the chief was the earliest in the 70s. I was in the 80s. Constable Beveridge, Guy, when were you in?
I went in 89 and did 9.5 years.
Okay. So you actually got close to the turn of the millennium. I was 82 to 85. Chief was 1870. I mean, I'm 1970. There's the laugh and smile. So we're here today because we are all three veterans, and we're talking about Veterans Day. And in relation to that, the benefit of recruiting and hiring, the pros and cons from the veteran pool. As a military police veteran myself, I went in specifically to be an MP. These things have haunted me since I was 11 years old. And back in the late 70s, early 80s, if you wanted to be a police officer, your vision uncorrected can only be 20/70 as a max, and then correctable to 20/20. And if you wanted a waiver, you had to have something to trade. I wanted to trade 3 years of experience already in a uniform. So that's why I went in the Army as an MP so I could get out and become a cop. Chief, what drove you to be an MP in the 70s, late 70s? So it wasn't even Vietnam.
No, I was not in Vietnam. I missed that show, thank goodness. But the thing of it is, right then in the late 70s, there was some hiring issues. To be totally honest with you, I was seeking a couple of employments. And this was also, too, during the lack of diversity all in the workplace and such as that. There were several lawsuits. I was selected by one agency to be hired. They told me to get my life together, you starting in work in 2 weeks, and a week later they said deal's off, lawsuit. So I'd already submitted my resignation. I was working as an EMT at an ambulance service in Lynchburg, Virginia. So I wandered into the U.S. Army recruiting office to be all I could be. And that's how I ended up there. I wanted to be a cop. Civilians wouldn't give me a job. Uncle Sam did.
And Guy, how did you end up going in the 80s, late 80s?
Yeah, so as a young man in high school, trying to figure out your life path, what you were going to do, I knew I wanted to be a cop. I knew so much. I had only dressed as Superman or a cop for every Halloween. My mom tells me, and I didn't get my driver. I refused to get a driver's license. So I knew that would put a record on me if I got something wrong with that. I didn't get my driver's license until right before I went in the military. And I didn't want to be a townie. I didn't want to be one of those people that graduated and stuck around working in the auto plants or whatever. So the Army was a great path for me. My dad had already served Navy and Army, and and because I knew I wanted to be a cop, I went for 95 Bravo, the old days, right, to be a cop, and they took me, of course, right.
Well, everybody needs cannon fodder, and MPs are glorified infantry. Before we go too much farther, for all of our listeners that were not lucky enough to be in the Army, if you're a Marine, I'm going to pick on you. I got 3 brothers that are Marines, a son and a daughter-in-law that are all Marines. I will give you grief. I have learned very well from them. The purple ones taste best. I don't know if you guys have heard that as well. My father was in the Air Force. You said your dad was Navy and Army?
Yeah, Navy and Army. Matter of fact, I was going to be a Marine, but they found out both my parents were still married, so it was out.
I hate when that happens.
Chief, my dad was in the Navy in World War II.
So we all came from a uniform family line. My grandfather actually joined the U.S. Army after immigrating in 1911 from Italy, and he fought in World War I for the U.S. Army, and that's how he earned his American citizenship. And then my dad went in the Air Force And then he gave me all kinds of hell for going in the Army. I was wasting my life, even though he had done 4 years in the Air Force as an X-ray technician. We will inevitably pick on the Coast Guard and Space Force. I just don't know how it's going to come out in the conversation yet.
Very
I
adjacent
listen
to the
every day
military.
to the Navy guys and the Coast Guard guys argue about whose boats have the better wheels on the bottom, but I stay out of that argument because I never rode on one. So recruiting and retention, training, all of that good stuff. When it comes to veterans, there's got to be some cons. I never saw them. I always saw the pros of it, right? I saw guys who already knew how to keep a uniform squared away, who already understood military structure, who already understood how careful they had to be in articulating things necessarily for reports, keeping the chain of command happy, although I'm sure the chief knew some guys who didn't care about keeping the chain of command happy. And I'll be honest, I ended up in a provost marshal's office more than once because I did something he didn't like and got thrown out of his office at least once because he didn't like my answer. Let's start with you, Chief. Benefits to hiring veterans. When you're twice retired chief of police, what were your goals when you were hiring veterans? What was the good side?
When you hire veterans, first of all, they have a lot of intangibles. One of the first thing is, they don't question. And I can give you the example when I was at the police academy. We would open up the door, tell them go in, sit down, shut up, and don't touch whatever. And they would go find their chair and they would sit there, because they followed orders. I would always have some people who were civilians or whatever, and they would go and they're looking at the books and looking in the desk and looking around. And then that's when we would do kind of a shark attack on them. Bad, they were free thinking individuals and not following rules. But first of all, they would follow rules. Number two, they understood the grand scheme of things. What do we do the majority of our life? In the military, we sit around going, "What the hell are we doing? Why are we waiting here?" You got a 9 o'clock, you got a 9 o'clock formation.
Hmm.
You draw weapons at 4:45. Veterans are used to that, and same way in police work, they're used to that. They follow orders. Their firearm skills impeccable. Their physical skills usually outstanding. They bring a lot of things to the table, and it's a lot of real life events. When you look into their toolbox, they bring a lot of different things. I mean, let's face it, the average kid you get out of college, if they had first aid, it's when they were in the eighth grade to get a merit badge. You go through the military, you got to have buddy first aid, you got to know how to do your AFLACs and all like that. So they already had a lot of skills that moves right along. They understand the chain of command. They understand, why we do what we do. Are there any cons?
Yeah.
Yes, there is. And I had one in particular who I was his field training officer, FTO, fat, tired, and old. And so I could not get through this guy. He was 22 years retired Army. He was a E7. Uh, I think he was a mechanical artillery or something. I don't know. But he would not listen and just totally disrespect. So I lit him up, wrote him up, and we went before the FTO sergeant and the lieutenant, and basically he said he could not follow my directions because he was senior to me had we been in the military. Well, they explained it to him real quick. You're no longer in the military. You have no stripes. This guy has two stripes, so you will listen to him. He's your FTO, and he holds your career in his hands. FTOs have the power. To
Hmm.
be totally honest with you, they moved him to another officer who was non-military. Did not work out. He never got the FTO program. He could not adjust from being an E7 or senior NCO to civilian life. At last I heard he was driving a bread truck delivering, white bread and rolls.
Well,
So,
I mean, I know a guy who was a decorated Marine, was a corporal when he got out. Somebody I would have thought was highly talented, an intelligent fellow, but he got out into the workforce, and one of his first supervisors was also a prior service Marine. And when his supervisor tried to give him direction, when you have one Marine giving another Marine direction, they're giving it and taking it just like they're both still in the Corps. But one of them's attitude was, "Hey, I'm not in the Corps anymore. You don't get to talk to
Yeah.
me like that."
right.
And the supervisor's attitude was, "Yeah, but you still work for me." And they did this so much that the talented guy went, "I'll go work for somebody else." Um, and I guess you're intelligent when you do that. It's interesting to note the retired E7 who, you know, couldn't adjust to taking orders from somebody. I always wondered, because I mean, I'm an old guy, and there's always younger people that, if you stay in police work long enough, there's always somebody younger that you ends up outranking.
Yeah,
and can you take those orders? Can you follow those directions? And for me, it always boiled down to yes, but can he lead in such a way that he's not coming across like a pompous ass because of his rank?
right.
Constable, I'm going to go back and forth. Guy, it's just easier. It's
Just
a
Guy.
lot shorter.
Just Guy.
Less syllables. I'm not going to mess it up as easy.
Yeah.
So first off, I don't know of any other state in the country that has constables. So what's the equivalency of a constable in Texas? It's an elected position. You're like a sheriff, right?
Pennsylvania has constables.
Yeah, PA has constables. There's a couple other states that have constables. They don't do it quite the way we do it.
Does anybody do anything the way Texas does it?
No, and we're really big. We have waffles in the shape of our state, and we're very humble people. We'll tell you all about it. But you know, the easiest way to translate it for the way we do it here is I'm a county police chief. So elected by the people, and I run my own budget, my own deputies, my own office. We do all the same duties, responsibilities as all law enforcement in our area. We have statewide jurisdiction for everything, and we do the protection and security of the justice courts within our area that we're elected in.
So in my experience, most other places, that's just like the sheriff's office. They're elected. Police chiefs are appointed everywhere else I've been. Sheriffs are elected. They're responsible for the court security. They do have statewide jurisdiction. Most places don't even realize that. And they're actually still responsible for about 60% of law enforcement in this country.
Yeah. And I'll tell you, for us, and I say it all the time, and I teach at Sam Houston State University. I teach a leadership class there. And I tell people, constable is the best kept secret in law enforcement as far as I'm concerned. Because most of what I do is when I show up, I'm writing a supplement report at the most, right? Because I'm backing somebody up. I'm backing up the city. I'm backing up state. I'm backing up the county. And we're just there as an extra set of eyes, ears, resources. We do generate our own stuff, but we are the people's police. That's the best way to put it. We're the people's police because we're elected by the people.
All right. So your experience then in that leadership role and being a veteran yourself, pros and cons of hiring veterans.
Yeah, so it is. We're pretty uniquely situated as well. Where I am, I can look out my back door and there's Fort Hood right there, largest military base in the free world, right? So we get a lot of our pool of candidates comes from Fort Hood, comes with a military background. I'll just say, the military teaches compliance through authority. That's generally military. In the military, you get compliance through authority, whereas in law enforcement, you're getting compliance through community trust and customer service. So a little bit of a change there, but I have not seen a lot of what the chief described with the rank structure. We'll get E7s, first sergeants, even sergeant majors that just want to get back into their community and come out into law enforcement. And just they know that there's a rank structure there where they're going, and their rank, what they were in the military, doesn't matter. It does play into effect in their knowledge base, though. I can have a lot different and better conversation with a veteran than a non-veteran law enforcement officer for sure.
Well, maybe that E7, sorry for interrupting, but maybe that E7 was the anachronism. I mean, I don't know the chief saying they're all like that, but he was that one guy whose ego he just can't check.
He was an oddity of them all, because I've had both trained and FTO'd and supervised, Rangers and MPs. Never had a minute's problem with any of them. Yes sir, no sir. You need to hold that wall. There they go. The thing of it, and as far as the other veterans, same way. My Marines, they always did the job I asked. This guy was an anomaly, and I think I said the reason I brought him up was every now and then you're going to get that unicorn. It's not a good one. So you got to be prepared for it. But most of the others they understand rank structure, they understand mission, they know they're here today to do a job, and they're going to do it.
All right. Sorry I interrupted you, Guy. Continue on.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, so there's a ton of benefits. Obviously they understand stress inoculation. When they come out, they understand the being mission focused in their mindset, that we're going to be here until the job is done. They understand a disciplined infrastructure like we talked about. And they understand, if nothing else, they understand team cohesion. And so there is a huge benefit to that. But again, you do have to, I think in the military, because you have specialty jobs, you get what's called a depth of knowledge. You can speak all day long about this knowledge base, about your MOS, and if you're in the military for a length of time, you will get some breadth of knowledge for sure. But when you're first coming out, E5, E6, you still have a complete depth of knowledge from the military, and you have to to serve your community, you have to open up and get that breadth of knowledge to meet people where they are, which is, quite frankly, I think that's where we miss some of our citizen contacts, is we're meeting them who we are, not where they are.
100%. We probably ought to do a whole nother show on that.
Yeah, for sure.
I like being around till the mission's done. I know when I first got out before the police academy started, I was working security at a theme park, and they put me on a front gate post. And the lady's like, and my supervisor was a young female, and she says, "And I'll do my best to get you some relief or a break or whatever." And I'm thinking, lady, I stood at a gate for 12 hours.
Yeah.
You're talking about 2 or 3, and that's my assignment. I'm good. And she's like, well, yeah, but I don't want to. And she was really all about, because apparently you get these other people come out, no military experience, they get the job, and they're like, well, I've been here an hour, I need a break.
Yeah.
No, I like, just tell me if I have to take my food with me. I don't want to go 12 without eating if I don't have to.
Yeah. You'd be amazed at the number of things I can figure out how to pee into with nobody seeing. It's standing post for long periods of time.
Right.
Another interesting point coming up to recruiting prior military. A lot of times I have young children, or I call them children, kids, teenagers come and say, what should I do in my life? I don't know what you should do. I don't know you that well. I always tell them take the ASVAB. Our military has spent millions in occupational science to understand what you're most versed for. And I'll give you an example of my son. He wanted to be a firefighter in the Air Force. It was a union job. Anyway, he decided that's what he wanted to do. He failed the test because he couldn't handle the mathematics. But the recruiter lined him up with logistics. And I'm going, excuse me? This is a kid who can't find his socks to go to school. And they're like, no. He has the thinking, the reverse thinking of logistics. First thing on is last thing on the truck and all like that. And he was very successful at it. And now he's working in private industry doing logistics. So I always tell him, I said, you don't have to join the military. Take the ASVAB and find out what you're acute to. Now, that being said, we look at, when we hire military, you get a lot of kids straight out of college. You get a lot of kids, this is their first job. They don't have a work ethic. When you look at somebody coming out of the military, 3 to 5 years out of the military, number one, they got life experience. And I don't need to explain what a barracks party is or what the past was like. They have been out there, and and what do you learn from that too? A lot of diffusing techniques. The new PFC comes in, gets hammered, and you got to diffuse them and all like that. So they pick up a lot of little life skills on the side. And the thing of it is, when you take a young recruit on the street and you look at something, say outside the in the entertainment area, and what do you see here, young college graduate? Oh, I see the plight of urban man. Oh, okay, good, wonderful. Yet and still, I take a young MP who's on there. He's like, oh, wait a minute. Those guys over there, they're tuned up. They're going to fight. They have these worldly experiences that are intangible. You can't learn in a book. You cannot learn seeing a video game. It's something you got to see, smell, and taste. So there's a lot of intangibles that you don't look at. But I still say if you've got a young kid, tell them take the ASVAB.
100%. Just real quick. And then, Guy, I got to talk to you about New Orleans because the analogy was great. ASVAB, Armed Services Vocational Aptitude Battery, in case somebody doesn't know. It's a test that they give you for free. A lot of high school recruiters go in and do it. The DLAB, the Defense Language Aptitude Battery, also something that should be taken. MOS is Military Occupational Specialty. You heard the acronym used. Acronym.
Acronyms.
Yeah, I don't need more coffee, I swear. Talk about what people see. I worked with guys who had never been in the military down in New Orleans after Katrina. Guy, you and I were both there.
Oh, gosh.
I happened to be on Bourbon Street with a guy, and I said, what do you see? And he says, I see a street that God finally flushed. Like it needed to be cleaned, and God flushed it. It's clean. And I looked at the military guy, and I said, what do you see? He said, about 50 sniper hides.
Yeah.
And the difference just in, one was laughing and joking, and the other one was keyed up and like, ooh, this is a bad place. I don't like being here. You had to have seen something similar while you're there, but you're laughing about the life's experience and stuff.
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, how many stories do I have and how much time do we have to talk about the operation that was in stationed in Baton Rouge and going
Yeah.
down to New Orleans and getting into all that and working with NOPD and seeing how they do police work was
The
just,
wait,
I mean,
wait, the
that's
300
another
that were left
podcast.
out of the 1100 when the
Yeah.
800 of them just left the city because it was
Yeah.
evacuated.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you knew those guys, they were special already because they stayed and they wanted to keep working for their city. And so there's, so many good stories that came out of that too, because they love their city. That's why they stayed. But one of the things we didn't talk about, and I know it's one of the things that were important to us at various stages of our career, is the training cost. Well, I think you're getting a lower training cost hiring someone from the military because some of them will still have their GI Bill available. And so if you're paying for an academy for somebody to get them certified, that cost is negligible at that point. And then already have the discipline. They got PT down and stress management. They're sailing through the police academy. And so we're saving money on that alone.
It's funny you say
And
stress
another,
management because I think a lot of, sorry, Chief, I think a lot of non-military personnel, people who've never served, they see veterans and they immediately assume some type of traumatic stress injury or
Yeah.
disorder. I mean, right?
Yeah.
Those of us who've been there know that you can grow from stress as well as be crippled by stress, depending on how you manage it and how you leverage it.
Yeah.
But I forgot that so many other states have a way for people to want to put themselves through the academy can.
Yeah.
That wasn't my experience here in Maryland. So it's unique. We know that the other places do that.
Yeah. One of the things I would say that maybe we miss on that is like a transition officer of some sort, so, I'm not a big enough agency to do it, but our local PD and our sheriff's office could certainly do it where you get, if you remember when you got stationed overseas, you got assigned to somebody that was already in that unit you were going to, right? And so they would tell you all the ins and outs. Here's where you're going to go. I'll meet with you when you get here, and they'll take you around to all the locations. Something like that for the academies to have a liaison officer, someone that was prior military, to get this military veteran into the police academy and successfully transitioned into the civilian world. I think that may be something we're missing right now.
we did that, and I've got an upcoming article, gratuitous
Of
advertising.
course you do.
That's right.
Very good.
But
Very good.
the thing of it is, sometimes what we had when we were hiring so many hand over fist in Savannah, the not training unit, but the recruiting unit, we had a couple of people that acted like a concierge almost.
Mm-hmm.
We had people, which bank do I use? I just moved here, just got the military. I don't see my local bank. Okay, go over here. I know a guy.
Mm-hmm.
Where can we go stay? You just don't go pick an apartment in Savannah. You've got to know some of the places that are a little bit safer and, such as that. So we actually did a little bit of that. And there was a little bit of guidance. And I think that also helped them, blend in well.
Yeah.
Because if you're flying blind and you're a new kid, in a new foreign city, and you're some small little country boy, and yeehaw, here I am in a big town. Bad things can happen, especially after midnight. So we always give them those little pep talks. But the other thing we were talking about too, about recruits of military, with the exception of someone who maybe had martial arts experience or they were a college football player, when it comes to physical exertion and teaching defensive tactics, a lot of these kids today, I'm okay, you're okay, and they never
Oh,
ever
yeah.
they've never tasted their own blood in their mouth.
Yeah.
But
Yep.
when you have people who have been through the physical experiences like that, they're a little bit easier to train than someone going, I don't think I want to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
That happens.
it's funny. It's Chief Jeff Chudwin years ago at an Ohio Tactical Officers Conference. He said we're hiring the wrong people because at the time everybody was focused on the high school kid who'd never been suspended, never
Yeah.
played a physical contact sport, hadn't been in the military, they'd never skipped school, they never played hooky, they had great grades. But then you get them out there and they're doing arrest scenarios, and they say to somebody, "You're under arrest," and the guy looks at him and goes, "F you," and then they turn around to the instructor like, well, "What am I supposed to do now?" We'll fight him into handcuffs.
Yeah.
And they've got the little wiffle ball ass batons, and they're going, "You're under arrest. Like swing that thing like you're trying to hit him into center field
Yeah.
and fight him into handcuffs." But Chief Chudwin's outlook was, "Give me the bad boy. Give me the guy who skipped school. Give me the guy who maybe he had some alcohol he shouldn't have had before he was a. Give me the guy who played football and he got a couple of penalties because he was a little bit too aggressive. Give me the guy that was in the military and had 2 Article 15s or captain's mass, whatever. Give me that guy, and I can discipline him into being a fantastic cop. But
Yeah.
I can't take, what was Musashi said, and I may have the wrong person I'm quoting. I'd rather be the warrior in the garden than the gardener in the war.
Yeah.
We are trying to hire gardeners and making them warriors, and they're not. And we
No.
need warriors that can act as gardeners until the time comes to beat that plowshare into a sword. And all 3 of us have been there, done that. So
yeah. I had an incident. Great illustration. I had an incident one night. Pulled over a drunk driver. 2 kids in the car. I say kids, 20s. The driver was drunk and his brother was in the passenger seat, and the driver did not want to go to jail, and his brother even more didn't want him to go to jail. So the fight was on. My backup shows up, and she'd never been in a fight before, never been punched in the mouth, and the first time she shut down. And so now I've got to take care of her and these 2 guys while my other backup is trying to get there. Yeah, the time to figure out you don't like being punched in the mouth is not when you get punched in the mouth for the first time, And
the sad part of that is, at some point, if you went back and you went through that particular scenario in detail and you looked at your use of force in the continuum, right? It's you against 2 people. Your controls are minimal. The damage you can do is great. And that's the other side of the military. So I had this conversation with my dad at one point, and we'll have to wrap this up in the next few minutes. But my dad, was a district court judge. And he had been a semi-pro boxer in college, and fighting was something kids did and young men did. Yep. And it's just, that's how it was. But, I got out of the Army and I went out of my way not to get in fights. And I was having a conversation with my dad one day about some guy who said, Dad's like, why don't you just punch him in the mouth? And I said, because then we're going to have a fight. He's like, so what? You're going to win the fight. I'm like, yeah, but I spent 3 years in a profession where I can never afford to lose the fight. So what I'm willing to do to win this fight is a lot more than the pushing, shoving, hitting contest that a lot of people get into. I'm willing to cripple, maim, and kill somebody to walk away from this fight.
Yep.
He's like, oh, well, yeah, no, you can't do that. But hence, that's why I do all I can to avoid the fight. Do you think people with the military experience do de-escalation better than other folks?
Absolutely.
I think nowadays, nowadays they probably do. I mean, because we're doing more humanitarian missions than we ever have in the past. So I think they're learning that. But that is that's a whole nother podcast where we need to get a lot better at customer service. Is really what we need. That's one of the things I teach at Sam Houston. Is we need to be, there's no other business out there not to get on a soapbox. There's no other business out there that stays in business if you stop meeting the customer's needs. But we do. And that's quite frankly why our customer is mad at us a lot of the time. We haven't modified, we haven't changed, we haven't bent ourselves enough to meet the customer's needs. We just told the customer, this is the business we're in, and you accept our business the way we are.
And not going to argue with you. I agree. Sorry, Chief. And it's a whole nother podcast, but I believe cops have been in the customer service business forever, and we deliver what you order. Now, just because you think you ordered X and you got Y, you didn't really. You ordered Y, and we delivered it well.
Yeah.
And if you're unhappy with that, then that's your problem. I think sometimes that's where we get to. But
when
both of you can tell me I'm wrong, and I learn from you.
When it comes to a job description, you just mentioned it. To me, a police officer's job description is 3 words. Okay. Human service provider.
Yeah.
That's what you do. You provide a human service. AI ain't going to do it. Nope. And the thing of it is, you are the one that is going to provide the human service. Now, a lot of people say that sounds kind of fluffy. No, you take a impaired driver off the road. You performed a human service. You take a pedophile off the streets. You performed a human service. You help a little lady cross the street. Again, human service. You are a human service provider. You're not going to be replaced by a kiosk.
Well, thank God you said that, because AI is everywhere today, and we're being asked to provide more and more media coverage of it. And I keep telling people, have you seen the movie Demolition Man? Because I'm not going to hold a BlackBerry and ask him what I do next while some psychopathic killer is rampaging. We've got to know what we're doing. And that aside, computers don't handcuff people.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great call. Now that I think about it, we're trying to be Demolition Man cops in an idiocracy world. Idiocracy was not a movie. It was real life that just was captured on screen.
It
I
is
had
real life every day.
I had a complaint several years ago when I was a chief, and the kid had to be arrested. Okay, let's get that over with. And he fought. The mother made a complaint, and she goes, "I wish you would have used the minimum force." And I'm like, okay. Could we have mailed him the warrant and a set of handcuffs and told him to put them on and turn himself in? That would have been minimum force. Your son had an issue. We had to deal with him. He didn't play along. And so here's where we're at. And she kind of laughed and she goes, "You're right. You couldn't have put him in a jail through the mail. You had to come do it." And I said, "Thank you." And she kind of got it. It was a bad analogy, but I think it worked.
Well,
Yeah.
I'm going to wrap this up, and thank God there's a thing called a statute of limitations, because I had a young man years ago who needed to be removed from a residence. It was the turn of the millennium, and we didn't know what was coming, so we couldn't arrest everybody. So we had to remove this guy from the house. We grabbed a hold of him, threw him out the front door, tried to come back. He ends up being booted in the butt, literally going down the steps. And his mom called the next day. 19-year-old, 6'8" young man. His mommy called the next day to ask if we had actually kicked her son in the butt going down the steps. Yes, ma'am, I did.
We did what you didn't do all these 20 years.
He needs it.
Yeah.
What'd you say, Guy?
Yeah, we did what you haven't done, and you should have done all years before this interaction.
Yeah. All right. I need to thank the both of you for being here. I need to thank both of you for your service, both in military. Chief, how long were you in a police uniform?
Who, me?
Yep.
Oh,
that long.
MPs for 3 years from 1980 to 19. So, yeah, about at 40 years.
40,
Dang.
42, 43.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Guy, how long have you been at it?
27 years. I hate to say that number out loud, but yeah.
Rookie.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks,
Well,
Chief.
and I get to say he gets called me a rookie too. Between my 3 in the military, 22 with one agency, 15 with another, I hit 40. And on the 40th anniversary of the day that I reported for basic training, I celebrated my retirement and have not put a uniform back on.
Yeah, I think I'm still crazy, so I haven't taken mine off yet.
Oh, I'd love to. Don't get me wrong. I'd love to still be doing it, but I'm in my early 60s now, and I'm not silly enough to. 2 things. I am not what I was in my 20s to be able to do it physically. I can get there, but I'm not. And body cameras.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd be in the chief's office far too frequently. Just don't need to do it. But thank you, gentlemen, for your service. Thank you for your knowledge, your wisdom that you share. Thank you for being on this podcast. And given the fun that we've had, at least I have, I feel like we ought to do this in person at some point with coffee, beverages, and cigars.
Gosh, yes, absolutely.
Great idea.
And you out there listening, don't get in the comments. Tell us what you think. Share your ideas down in the comments as well.
I love that he says that. So this will go up on. We're gonna have a YouTube video up as well, and our podcast. We'd love to hear the comments and love to get the feedback. My email is frank@officer.com. It's really, really hard. Send me everything you want me to say, anything to Chief Harvey or Constable Beveridge, good, bad, and different. Pick on their haircuts, their mustaches. That's mine. Never mind. Anything. Oh, and if you're a Marine, we need to know, do the purple ones really taste better? Or
and we tried not to use any big words, so you can get all of this.
Thank you, Guy. You guys stay safe.
Thank you so much,
guys. Be safe.
Thank you for listening to this week's episode of The Lineup. Please remember, the opinions voiced are not those of Officer Media Group or Endeavor Business Media, but only those speaking those opinions themselves. Thank you and stay safe.